Uh-oh. Okay, I think we're good. My mic was not working there. Hopefully we are good now. Let's see if sound's working. Okay, looks like we're good now. My mic got kicked out, so should be good. Hopefully. Give it a couple minutes, give some people some time to get in here. How's it going, Adrian? How you doing? I'm gonna hang out for just a minute here, let some people join in, make sure that everybody's in here. Yep, I'm doing good. It was a long day of work, being my last day of the week, but I got a couple days off now, my weekend, and I figured we would take a look at the new HouMats stuff. I was gonna take a look yesterday, but I ended up not doing that. Pushed it off to tonight, and yeah, we'll take a look tonight. Maybe make some different materials or something. I don't know. Haven't decided what all we're gonna do, but I did want to just make sure that we get in there and take a look at the nodes that are available, and just demonstrate kind of what is capable of being done right now. Some of the things that are capable of being done. And also, if anybody has downloaded it on the day of release, make sure you head back to the downloads page and re-download them, because there was an issue with one of the nodes that was creating some seams. So I have fixed that and put that back up, and that is available as of now. All right, I guess we will go ahead and take a look here. Start to look at some of the new nodes. So it is in cops. We'll start off with in the stage here, and we can jump inside. So right away we can right click and we have this new menu, which is HouMats, which, by the way, if you don't know how to install these, it's just OTLs. So you just drop them into your documents and your OTLs folder, just like you would with any other of your HDAs. They're just HDAs. So we have our HouMats little folder here, and then we've got two subfolders for now. We have generators and we have utility, so you can see what we have available to us. So I've used some of these before: the SDF setup, the SOP setup, and the UV grid. You can just pop these all down real quick to show what they are. And the UV grid. So all they are just recipes that drop down this SDF shape for the SDF setup, and then this SDF to mono, stuff that you're going to be doing all the time. I plan on making these free, these three, because they're just recipes. I just haven't got around to putting all that stuff up yet. May wait until I get a couple more that I want to put out for free for everyone to download, just in case you guys want to have them and not, make them yourselves. And then we have this SDF shape, or actually we did that one. That's the same one. So we went SOP setup. So SOP setup just creates these three nodes for us. Again, something that you're going to do a lot inside of Copernicus when you're working with this. So it's something that I use all the time. So I figured I would make a little recipe here that gives us access to this. If you don't know, you can save out, just to show everybody, if you want to make a recipe. Like let's say we wanted to save these as a recipe, you wanted to do this yourself, you can just right click, go to recipes, and then save selected items as tools. And then it's important that you know in here that you can set this to be kind of whatever you want. So you could save this as like your hip and your hip, and then you can name this, you know, kind of whatever you want. You could say this is, you know, stop setup like I have here, and then it'll create this node for you. And then you can just save this or just move this HDA. It just creates an HDA. That's all the recipes are, just HDAs. And then you can move that HDA out to a different location and rename it whatever you want. And then it's basically just like having your own little HDA. That's all I did for these three specifically. And again, the UV grid is just a file node with this specific input for the file name, which comes default with Houdini. So nothing too complex there. Like I said, I plan on putting these out for free just because they're not anything, you know, special. But I did include them in the downloads just because they are something that is useful. And you know, it's available to everyone if they want. So we have some other things in here. So I guess I'll cover the copy and transform next, because this is kind of the base level node that I think that is kind of most important out of all of the nodes in this HouMats release. And I do also, by the way, plan on expanding this further and adding more nodes to this utilities release. So I want to make some more tools that are good for building out other materials. But this copy and transform is super essential. So you can take any shape that you want and input this in here. So if we do our SDF setup, and I have two because I was trying to hide some of this stuff before I came out with it, and I just haven't got around to deleting the recipes out. But we can pipe in this shape here, and we look at this copy and transform. Now we have that shape being input. And like I said, we can transform this into anything that we want. So if we wanted this marker, again, we get that. And then we can come to this copy and transform, and we can specify some things. So if we want to come to our original transform, that's going to be where our shape is going to start out. We can move this around. Let's say we want to move it over, and then we can transform this copy however we want. So this basically works just like the copy and transform node directly inside of SOPs, but it works on our COP network here. And just to get rid of this, I don't like that being up there. So we have this copy and transform. We can move things around kind of however we want. So we can move them up and down. And obviously this is going to work based off of the translated copies. So it's going to do this per, you know, transform. So it's going to move up 0.1 and then over 0.6, and the same for the second copy. And we can continue to move these on if we wanted to maybe make a bunch of them. You know, we can do it like that. Now this doesn't tile because you have to have it set up properly. It's not really made to tile, but you can obviously set things up so that if you had something like this, then it's going to tile appropriately. But you have to set it up so that it is not overlapping the edges or anything like that. It's just kind of more meant for kind of splattering some things around in the inside of your textures. Not so much as to create tiling textures. But we have these, we have some different settings here, so we can rotate these. We have original transform, so that's going to be your first copy. So if we do something to this, you can see it's going to affect all of them. So you can move this around. So this one, you can rotate, on all axes, but it's going to kind of distort things, right? So you want to stick to, for the most part, maybe this one where we're going to rotate kind of in the proper axis to not have any sort of distortion with this. So we have our transform copies that will apply those rotations and stuff. So you can do some interesting things with that. You can move this around so we are rotating every so often, whatever we want to do with that. Again, you can scale these all as well. So if you wanted to affect your copies, that's where you're going to be in this transform copies. If you want to affect that original one, and then also all of them subsequently after that stay in this original transforms. Let's maybe bring this back down to 3, and maybe let's come in here and let's see, what do I want to do? Show this off. I guess it doesn't really matter too much. Let's come back in here and come down. Let's maybe move this over maybe a little bit, and then let's do -1.5. So it's right in the center. So we have this, we can chain these together as well. Oh, and also we have an ID output for these as well. So if I wanted to look at this, we can see our IDs. So each one has a different ID, which is going to be useful for some things as well. So very useful for things like masking and just building out other shapes and stuff. So we can take these and we can transform them, copy and transform them again. So maybe we want to take this and scale them up. And again, we have 3 copies here that we're creating. So we start with this original shape, and then we're going to just translate them out. So I guess we have a original transform on here. We do need to maybe rotate this by 90 degrees, and then we would get that back to the shape that we had. So if I took this and set this back, let's set this to like 10. So I think that's like to get us back to the same size. Yeah, so here we have essentially the same thing that we had before, right? And then we can take these and let's say move them down. And then we have this same thing that's built. And then we could just take this all and transform it up by like that 1.5, -1.5. Or 0.15, sorry. Right? I guess it's in the positive direction. And then we're kind of back in the center now. So we can build out a lot of different things with this copy and transform node. It's going to be very useful for a lot of different things inside of cops. And we'll take a look at that kind of in the future as we start to build out some other things. And actually, it is used in one of the other nodes as well. So just make sure that you have this copy and transform installed if you grabbed the HouMats off of either Patreon or Gumroad. They are available on both if you want to pick whichever one you want. So let's take a look at, we'll come back to this position mask. Or actually, we'll just take a look at it now, I suppose. So this is the one that I had updated from the original release. So if, like I said, if you grabbed it on the release date, then go back and re-download it, because I had an issue with seams that I corrected. So for this one, we do need a mesh. So let's jump out here. Let's do stop create, and we can just do like a pig head. And let's do a null, and we'll call this out geo. Then we can just jump back in here, and we need to specify our object here in this little field. So we'll come in here and just select that geo. And then we have our pig head UVs basically. So let's take a SOP import, and I'm gonna just copy that path, use the external SOP, and then do a preview material for this. And wire this into our geo, and then we can take a look at maybe our X mask for this. This is meant more as like a masking tool for some different things, but you could use it for a lot of different things. In this case, we'll just take a look at it on the pig head, but you could set up like a grid, and then you can create some different shapes and stuff based off of that, or like isolate different parts of the mesh. In this case, if you wanted to like have if you had a mesh that you're trying to texture, then you could use this to help isolate some things, or maybe blend in some different things if you wanted to do that. So we have this position mask. So we have basically 3 settings here. They're all the same thing. They're a ramp here, and then we have an output min and an output max. So this output min is just going to affect the minimum value. The output max will affect the output, the max output. And then we have our ramp here, which is going to control how this falls along our mesh here. So as I drag this over, if I set this to 0.5, it's going to be right in the middle of our mesh. And we could set these to be constant. I guess I need to, well, that didn't work the way I anticipated. This one needs to be 0.5. So now we have that harsh line right down the middle. So we can move this around and you can see that that's going to work, you know, based off of the position. So we can do that for all three. Just take a look at the other ones. So we have our Y mask. Again, just drag this around and it's going to update our mask. And then lastly, we have our Z as well, which is going to go based off of our Z. So useful for texturing things more in like a substance type of manner, like a substance painter type of manner. But you can use this to do some other cool things with like grids, maybe like a sci-fi panel type thing. You could use this to isolate some different things that way if you wanted to as well. So let's jump into some of the other ones. So that we have our generators here. These are going to be a little more like our noises. So we have our directional noise here. If we take a look at this, we have a noise that's pretty similar to the directional noise in Substance. Some of these other ones are pretty similar to what you'd find in Substance. So directional noise, the dirt nodes, the hexagon grid, scratches, and the weave are all stuff that you'd find in like the Substance tool set. So we'll look at that all here in a moment. But we have this directional noise, it's just kind of some noises kind of layered together to look more like that directional noise. Works pretty well. Give you some different things, really crank up this contrast and get sort of like a wood grain type effect going on here, which is super nice. Can kind of lower that down, bring this around. We have our element scale, so we have our X and Y scale with this, so we can really stretch this out if we wanted to, get more of like an anisotropic noise from Substance, or we can just crank this up and, you know, kind of stretch this out and get something, you know, something different, whatever look you're going for. And then we have the offset, so we can move this around. Let's maybe set this back. You can move this around and scale this, or like just slide it along each axis. Or if you wanted to, you could, you know, type in random numbers here to just get like a random type of a seed. And then we have some controls for roughness. So if I bring this down, we get, you know, just kind of a blurry noise. So we bring this up, we can get some nicer effects. And we have our secondary noise as well. So if I take this all the way down, you can see we lose that kind of shading in the background. So that kind of a harsher shading. If I bring that center down a little bit, it's maybe a little bit easier to see. Yeah, not really. But we can crank this up, and there you start to see that we have that secondary noise that's being kind of brought in there. It gives us some of those secondary forms, which is kind of nice. And then again, we have all of the different settings for this as well. We have our element size, which if you wanted to really lower this down and, you know, kind of dive in here, you have some really fine noise, or you can leave it kind of where I left it at, and you can get something that breaks up your overall shape just a little bit. So that can be nice for some different things as well. And again, you can play around with all the different settings here. You have the offsets. I don't know why I left it at 12 and 12. Maybe just because that's where I liked it. And then we have roughness for this as well. So we can bring this up and we can really start to break up some of that. So you can add some sort of like a damage type effect going on if you wanted to. Maybe let's just turn this all the way off for now. Let's come back up here and find something we like. Something like this. We get this kind of a wood grain. And then we can come back in here to our secondary noise and really kind of bring this in, crank up the noise here. And then we start to get somewhat of like a damaged wood grain kind of going on here. So you can kind of get some really nice types of effects with this directional noise. It's a really powerful noise that I have got going here. Very useful for a lot of different things. So then we also have these dirt nodes. So I've got 3 different variations of this. They're all kind of the same. I'm going to bring up probably dirt 3. Dirt 3 is the one I kind of like the best because it looks kind of more like a noise that we'd see from like Substance. So all of our settings for these are basically the same. I guess I didn't have a roughness with the way I built dirt 1. So we have dirt 1, dirt 2, and dirt 3. So dirt 1 is going to be your like really fine dirt where it's just a few little particles here and there. You can kind of crank this up. You can go past these amounts if you wanted to, but that kind of breaks the look of the like dirt type. So I set these settings to be kind of where the max and the min that I would go. But again, you can kind of go past that if you want. Then we have our contrast, so nothing too similar there. And then our element size. So this get real fine. And again, we have our offset, which again can act like a seed value. You just change that, sort of like similar to anything else that you'd find inside of Houdini. Then we have our dirt 2. Again, same thing, very similar settings. Gives you a little bit more of a filled in dirt, so a little bit more intense than dirt 1, but not too much. And then dirt 3, we have a much more full dirt type of a texture going on here with some very nice noise in the background here. And again, we can play around with our element size here. If we crank this up, we can get some, much larger kind of shapes inside of here. The noise itself kind of it stays the same size as far as like the real fine details, but we have those overall kind of large shapes that can be raised or lowered. So if you go too low with this, then you're going to get something that's maybe not more like a dirt, but more like a white noise type of a situation. But somewhere in here, 0.2 to even up to 1, you get some really nice dirt type of shapes that you would, like I said, find in like Substance. So then we have our hexagon grid. So this one's pretty nice. You can do a lot of different things with this as well. Some nice shapes that we can get out of this. We have our divisions. So I want to point out here that if you take a look at this, we have this tile variation or tileableness to it. If you look at this, we kind of have this broken tiling. You can really see like the seam there. It's kind of difficult to see in that one. But let me show you just how you can fix this. So we have these row and column offsets. So you can either break this or you can cause the tiling issues with this. Let's bring this down. Let's see if we can get it to be super noticeable. Not really. Guess we kind of can. Maybe with that. Nope, that's not going to work. So either way, I guess you can kind of see where I'm going with this. We have a somewhat of a tiling issue that happens here. All we need to do in order to fix that is to just change these column offsets. We can also have it happen with the rows, which is a little bit less common, but it does happen in certain situations. So I brought them both in there just so that you can offset it and just get that tiling to come back. So you just offset it a little bit and it brings that back, which is nice. But we can do a lot of different things with this. Like I said, you have this divisions, and then we have our uniform scale, which is going to affect all of our different shapes in here. We have a horizontal scale and a vertical scale as well. So we can really create some unique things with this. So that's kind of an interesting look there. Then we have a blur type here. So if we look at this, we can increase this blur amount and we can change the type of this as well. So we have our circle, we have a diamond, kind of creates, it's a little bit hard to tell in this situation, but we have some different shapes that create different looks. So diamonds just kind of stretch that out a little bit more. Square gives us more of a squarish look. octagon looks pretty similar to diamond, or maybe even circle. Circle and octagon aren't really too distinguishable in this case. And then we have custom, which I don't really have an effect for. I guess we could plug that in. That's just, if you wanted to add this in yourself, you kind of can. I put this in because you would have to kind of be able to dive into the node, and I've got it locked in order to have this work on a per node basis. But basically it's just using this. Actually, it's not even the blur node, it's the feather. Yeah, so this works exactly like the feather node because that's where this came from. Oops, not mask, but source. And this works a little bit differently if you do it after, but you can still get some nice shapes. So you could do, you know, whatever you want to try. I guess I could have put this in. This wouldn't have been too difficult to put in. I just left it off. But either way, you can do it after the fact if you really wanted to with the feather. I just wanted to give you that same ability just on the node itself. The less things that you have to kind of drop down you have available to you at your fingertips, the better, in my opinion. So let's take a look at the next node. So I'm going to come back to nuts and bolts because there's a lot kind of to that. Let's look at the scratches. This one takes just a second to cook initially, but we have a lot of different things with this node as well. So we have our initial scratch count. If you change this around, go too high, it's going to kind of bog the node down a little bit. It'll take a minute to cook. You can see if we change our seed, it takes a little bit to cook here. So let's drop this down to like maybe 1,000 or something, or maybe like 4,000. That gives us a decent amount. So we have our seed here, so you know, it works just like a seed value. We have relax iteration, so that's just going to work like your relax would work on like a point relax or something like that. And then we have our random scales. So this node can be used for a bunch of different things. Most notably, it's called scratches for a reason, because it's going to add some like scratches type effects to your objects. But we can change around some of these scaling settings to get some like confetti type looks. So if I lower this down, it's kind of hard to tell, but the lowest, you kind of start to see it here. So if we look at this one right here, you can see that it's going to really lower the minimum size for our scale. And then max size, it just works basically how the names work, right? We can play around with the different seed for this as well. So we have some different seeds as far as that goes. And then we have an overall scale value as well. So I can mess with this. And then now you see we start to get that confetti type of a look going on here, which could be cool for, I don't know, some sort of a node that would use like a confetti type of, you know, flakes or whatever in your material. And then we have our scratch depth. Let me just turn that back. Actually, let me undo that for now because you can see very well the like depth to this, right? So these are going to be kind of less deep than the white ones here. So if I were to plug this into a preview material, and let's put this into the height. This is just on a grid, so set that to, let's actually do like 300. And we need to really crank that displacement down. Let's do 0.02. All right, so you see if I look here at this specific object right here, right? This is going to be pushing it in further than some of these other ones that are lighter. So if I look at this and then I select our scratch depth, we can take this and we can start to raise the min, and you can see that that's going to bring in some of those. And if we look back at our depth here, or our scratches, you can see those colors change. So that's just going to affect those, and then obviously we can play around with the max value as well, get some different things. And then we can play around with the seed on this as well. So I really wanted to give a bunch of control for these, so we have different seeds for different things. Again, you can change these all freely as you want and get some interesting things going. Let's go to the next node though. So we have the weave, which again is basically a node just kind of straight out of Substance Designer, except for this one I feel like actually has some more control that you don't necessarily have in Substance, and allows for some really cool things. This is the one that actually uses the copy and transform inside of it, so make sure that you have that installed if you want to use this node. Again, they all come together, so there's no reason you shouldn't have them all plopped into your OTLs. So with this, we have our length. So this is going to be our overall length, so we can play around with that. We have an overall thickness, get some interesting things. That already is a pretty interesting shape that we have here. Let's bring that back down. And then we have our divisions. So very similar to like our hexagon grid that we had up here, we have divisions for this as well. And then we can rotate these, which will break tiling as well. So just be aware of that. But we can play around with this and get some cool things with this rotate. Useful for certain things, but I wanted to make it available for you guys just in case you wanted to rotate them. So we have our shape controls. So this again is going to be like this is where our copy and transform comes in. So these are basically just settings from our copy and transform node. So we can move the shapes around if we wanted to. So we wanted to create some sort of a pattern like this. We can get something interesting here. That's not what I wanted. It was the copies. Yeah, so if I turn this down, you can see that we get less and less copies. If we wanted to move these around, let's go back to that. So if I move this up, you can see that we get something like this. Let's maybe crank up our length and maybe not our thickness. Let's see, move this up just a little bit further. Let's see. Well, yeah, let's go back. We can get some interesting type of effects with this. Let's come back down. I was thinking more of like something like this. Okay. So now if we crank up our length, oh, it starts to come over. But either way, so we have some interesting things that we can do with this. We can mess around with all the different settings on this, get some different looks. So if I wanted to set this to like 2, and then we can translate our copies. So we can move this down. We can get some sort of another like weave type of a pattern going on here. We can set this down. Let's bring this back in. You can play around with the number of things on number of copies. We can rotate them if we wanted to, and get some cool stuff with that. If you wanted to mess with this type of a rotation, all sorts of different things that you can do with this weave node. Lots and lots of control with this, and you have your scale for the copies as well. And then let's just set this all back. And then we have a blur that we can add to this as well. So we have Gaussian and box. You can crank this up past this. If you go too far, it starts to kind of wash this out. But we have the same settings that we would have in the blur nodes with this as well. So cool stuff that you can do with the weave. I'm excited to see what everyone does with all this. But we also have one other node, which is the nuts and bolts. And this node, we're going to need our preview material for. Oh, also important for this, a couple of these have IDs and some different things as well. We have our IDs here. We have our UVs. Same with our scratches. We have an ID for all of these. And our hexagon grid as well. We have our ID and our UVs. So lots of different things that are available to you with these nodes that allow you to really take control of everything with your materials. So let's wire in our base color into, well, actually our base color doesn't matter too much with this preview material. If we take a look here, let's disconnect the height. So our base color, we can control, set this to whatever we wanted. I'm gonna just set that back. We also have a metalness value that I'm outputting here. Again, these are nuts and bolts, so it's kind of meant to be a metal type of a situation. But let's pipe in our height into our height here. And you can see that we have our screw head popping up here. So we have two different things for our controls. We have a head and a tool type controls. And I'm going to just actually crank up the scale here. Like 0.1. Yeah, it should be good. So with this, we have a control over the type of head as well as the shape of our head here. So we can set this to a polygon or a circle for the head type. I'm just going to set this to be, well, I guess I should have left this as one that you didn't have anything for. I guess we can just crank that up and we'll get rid of the tool type. So we have this shape here, polygon. We can change this around, maybe a little bit easier to see if we look at our actual shape here. So we can control the number of sides, which is nice. I'm gonna set that back to 6 for now. This is typical of like a screw head that you'd find in machine type of work. And then we can control the rotation of this. Obviously the scale, you have X and Y values for the scale, and then an overall uniform scale for this as well. And then another thing that is available, set this back to circle, they have a raised head type. So I wanted to make sure that we were able to actually, create realistic looking like nuts and bolts type shapes. And that's important to be able to have a raised head type for these, because if we bring this cross back, you can see, let's see, I thought I had a multiplier. Oh yeah, height multiplier. So as I increase this, you can see that we start to get that bend to that shape here. So we can really crank this up if we wanted to, and we really get that bend. So that's going to be an overall bend type. So you can see that we have this inset is actually bending as well. So just be aware of that. You don't want to push it too far. But if we increase our overall height, we kind of mitigate those effects a little bit. So we can play around with the head shape and really control this however we wanted to. So we can, get some different looks for this. Really gives you a lot of control as far as what you want your head shape to be, and you can over crank this as well, and bring this to a different shape just based off of that if you want. I'm gonna set this back for now. Let's take a look at the tool types here. So we have a cross, a line, a polygon, a star, and a rivet. So similar things to what you would find, like I said, with these type of machining tools. So your screws and rivets and everything like that. So we can play around with all of the settings here. We can really dive in and control these. So we have bevel settings for this. Let's set this back. So you can bevel this a little bit if you wanted to, though this seems to be acting a little weird. I may have to look into that because it doesn't seem to be beveling it the way I had anticipated it. That's interesting. We can rotate this, and then we also have individual scale controls. So like I said, I wanted to give everyone as much control as they wanted or they could possibly, need with this, so I put as much of this stuff in here as I could. We have an overall uniform scale for this, and then we have a feather type. So this, I guess, is more of where the bevel, I think, is coming in. Maybe let's set this back to a polygon. Maybe I left this bevel in. Nope. I'm not sure what I was thinking with that bevel. It's not working as what I thought it was going to work. But this feather really kind of does what the bevel what I was thinking the bevel was going to do, I guess. So we have some different things with this. We have our feather type, so diamond, square, octagon, and then the circle. Custom, I didn't make really available, I guess. So just be aware of that. And then we have some individual controls for the tool marks. So we have the ability to control the inset for this, and we have a multiplier for it as well to give added control if you wanted to. Just be careful not to push this too far, because you can make this like go past, you know, where the tool actually is. You see we have this pushing past where the tool actually would meet the surface. So just be aware of that. And then I guess we can disable the tool head here as well. Again, we have the line. So these are the different, like, across and the line are more like your typical heads for screws. I'm just gonna reset all these. So we'd maybe want to just scale this out, and then we have a screw head here. You have the polygon tool, which is more like your, I don't know what they're called. I'm drawing a blank. I see them all the time. But, you know, this type of a shape, we probably want to scale this in. Something like that. And then maybe increase the inset amount. And this gives you, I call these star tools, I guess, but they're not really star tools. We actually have a star tool, which is more of like this type of a shape. So again, we can control all this stuff, and we have the ability to, you know, change the head type if we wanted to. And change this Allen key. Yes, they're Allen keys. I don't know why I call them star tools, but I guess I can't ever remember the name Allen. So yeah, so we can control all of the different head types and everything. That's independent of these, so you can change these to whatever you want. And then you have the rivets as well, so we can change this to more of a raised. Set this back, and then rivets are usually like a smaller head, I think, right? I don't know, something like that, or a hex tool. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why I can't ever think of those two names. You're right. They are called, their official name is like the Allen wrenches or whatever, Allen keys. But that's, for whatever reason, super hard for me to remember. But yeah, then we have these rivets. So this would be, in my mind, used more in combination with like a copy to points type of a setup. So like if you wanted to do a SOP setup, we'll just set this up on like a grid, I guess. Let's set this to XY plane, right? No, YX plane. And then I'm gonna reverse. Make this a 2x2. And now we have basically what we have in cops here. And then we would want to, there's a labs tool. It's like pick and place. So collision geometry, and then we can just do like an add node to get a point here. At least I think we can. Oops, I don't want an unpack. I don't know what I'm thinking there. A pack. So I think these have to be pack geometry. And then I think we can just pick and place. And you're not really seeing anything right now because it's just a point. But we can take this do a null. Which one is this? It's the second output. I think, yeah, so then we just have our points here, right? You can see our point numbers. Why do we have, okay, I just didn't want to grab them all. Whatever, it doesn't really matter too much. So we have our rasterized setup. We can do positioned, that doesn't really matter. And then we would do our stamp points. Yeah, cops for the win. I love cops. I've been having so much fun playing with this. So then I would plug in our height into our stamp. Yeah, and then let's just disable that. I guess that's not really showing up. I guess we need to increase the scale of them. It's going to be coming in I don't know why it's so small. That's interesting. Why do these have... Do these have a P scale assigned to them? They don't. They've got a transform. I guess that's weird. Let's just clean these, I guess. Never really noticed that. Does that fix... Oh, that's going to get rid of my points by default, isn't it? No, it's still there. Did I set this to UV? No, I didn't. But I think I cranked these up too much. Yeah, there we go. This is weird. I don't know why they have that transform assigned to them. That's interesting. But yeah, you can do a pick and place, and you could just place these around your mesh. You can see that we have this now, and if we wire this into our height, and I bring that back down to like 0.1, now we have our little like rivets that are being placed around our object. So maybe come in here and change that. And then I guess we could play around with the height on this as well. Like that maybe. That inset is too much. Maybe something like that. And we could control this with a multiply constant. And just bring this brightness down maybe. And there you have some sort of like rivets that should be assigning to your object. So lots of different things with this. Like I said, I really think that the kind of most fundamental node that is missing from cops is going to be this copy and transform. Like this is going to be used for everything inside of cops. Like I don't know. There's so many different things that I'm thinking about in my mind that this would be used for. Let's say you wanted to do. Let's bring this preview material back up. So if you wanted to create like the what are the like scaffolding type things here, you could do a basic shape. We want to actually, let me look at this. I want a compound. Let's see, what am I thinking? It's not a fish scale. Let me look at this real quick. A Vesica. I don't think a Vesica is really... It's really just an elongated circle. Can you do a... I want that. I want like a rounded... A squircle. That's what I was looking for. But I want... Not a transform, sorry. I don't want a uniform scale. I guess I would want a transform 2D. And then we want to set this to clip, I think. Not translate, but scale. This is a little too rounded. Let me come in here and I don't know what I'm thinking. Is it called? Anyways, copy and transform. Let's just rotate this back 90 degrees. Let's move this up into like the corner. And then we would kind of move this up. Let's increase the number of copies. And I need to maybe lower that. Or I guess we could increase it. Get the same effect. Oops. This is kind of what I'm looking for. I don't really have a plan to build out materials, but I guess we're kind of going to do that. Somewhat. So let's move. Oh, I moved this original. There we go. Okay. So, like if we did this, like this sort of a like scaffolding type pattern. Let's move this up. There you go. And then you plug this into like a opacity. We need to invert actually. And with this, we'd have this sort of, you know, like a grate type of an effect here. So like this is not something that's super easy to create without this copy and transform. It takes some setup in order to do it. I mean, you'd have to do it with some like copying points and everything. So I think this is super necessary to have the copy and transform node at least. So just kind of my thoughts. I don't know why they didn't include something like this in the default cops, but definitely something that they should have. Since it's not there, I went ahead and made it. Clean geometry, best way to get this as clean geometry in SOP context. Like exporting clean geometry? That is a great question. Honestly, okay. With base Houdini, yes. Trace node, maybe? Clean is not going to probably work that well. Like it's just hard to get a clean geometry from cops. Let's do a null. It's hard to get clean geometry from cops. I think that let's do out to trace. I don't know, whatever. I think that mops has a better trace node, so you could maybe like essentially, and that's not really a trace node, but you could take it and output it to a texture maybe, and then bring it in through mops. Yeah, so cops is definitely better for producing maps and geometry, unless you're looking to like, yes and no. So like in this case, for creating something like this, it's not gonna be the best, just because the trace nodes don't really work that well. I would need to like invert that. I don't know. But if you're doing something like like a brick pattern. Like you could output, so the cops nodes are just like they're just height fields, right? So you could output them to a height field, and then you can get some 3D geometry that way. But I would limit that to like maybe like brick patterns or like tiles, maybe something like that. I wouldn't do it with anything super complex. I touched on it in a video just to show that, like, yes, it is possible, but it's not ideal. And man, this is not liking this at all. That was taking forever to cook. It's not gonna work. But yeah, you could output that, I guess, as a texture and try the mops node. I think the mops like thing works a lot better than this trying to use this trace node, but I don't know that for sure. But yeah, so there are, let's see, what, 13 nodes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, 13 nodes right now in HouMats. I do plan on there being more, and this specifically the utilities. So I plan on expanding this further to textures and materials as well. But this first release was really just the utilities release. So all of these things are things that are going to be useful for making other textures, like this noise, for example, really good for getting those types of, like wood grain type things. We have the dirts, which are going to be good for texturing things, adding those like grungy little details. Scratches are good for creating scratches on objects. This confetti type of a look can be useful for some things. So these things are kind of there to be built upon. So that was kind of my focus with these. And like I said, I do have plans to make more of these nodes. But I wanted to really just kind of focus on utility nodes that are really missing. That's why I focused on the dirt ones, the directional noise, that copy and transform is essential. Just things that really I feel like should be included with base Houdini. And maybe they will. Like I said, the cops is very much in its infancy right now. So it's hard to say what's going to be in the next release. I'm sure that they're going to include a lot of different things in the next release. So maybe they'll bring some of these types of things to these. And also something I want to point out, a lot of this stuff is built around, the stuff in cops is built in OpenCL. That's what makes it so fast. And if we take a look at some of these nodes, like the fractal noise, right? Most of these nodes in cops, you can dive inside, and they have this OpenCL node. So if you don't know how to work with OpenCL, you can come in here and look at all this stuff. So, you have your kernel here, but all of that is based upon what you have in here. And it's not going to let me pop this out without unlocking this node. Take a look here. So if you want to learn, and this goes for Houdini just in general, if you want to learn like how to do things, try diving inside nodes and just breaking them down. So there's a lot of different things in this fractal noise. Like this is a ton of code, right? They put a lot of work into this. But if you want to learn how to do OpenCL, this is a great resource. Like all of these nodes are great resources to learn OpenCL. And really, it's really powerful. Like knowing OpenCL, like, you can do so much with this, and it works so fast. That's what makes this stuff all like somewhat real time. Is OpenCL. But there's a lot of things in here, and you can see kind of the rawness of this. So there's other other nodes, like almost all of the nodes in here. Like I bet you, the ramps aren't. Of course the ramps aren't. Early noise maybe? Yeah, OpenCL. Like they ported over some functions and stuff. There's a really great resource I saw somewhere that goes over like the things of that they've, like the functions that they've ported into Houdini. I think it's like this Material X, some of this Material X stuff. So like they brought these into Houdini or whatever. I don't know how it all works. I'm not a super big coding person. But yeah, if you want to learn how to do OpenCL stuff, I would start by looking inside of these nodes and just trying to pick them apart as far as what's going on, and just bring some of that stuff into its own OpenCL node. If you just copy over all the code and then just kind of break it apart and see what you can do. Because yeah, there's a lot of things you can do with it. You can write your own full OpenCL kernel with that. I'm not going to dive into that today. But you can definitely do that, and very, very useful to know. I do want to look into that in the future a little bit more, but haven't done so myself. But yeah, that's a quick look at what's available in HouMats as far as right now. I'm probably going to focus on some of this stuff in the future and using these to actually make some materials. I'll probably make some materials together, start to like really build out some things, and I'll probably make the stuff that I make for like videos and stuff. I'll put those materials out for free for you guys as well. But you'll want to pick up these HouMats. So I'm sure we're going to be using those, the utility nodes in a lot of those materials. So yeah, I don't know if there's any questions, if there's anything that I skipped over, maybe that you missed, anybody that joined late or anything that we want to take a look at. But yeah, this position mask too, let's look at that real quick. Again, let's just delete this stuff out. And take this, wire this back in. Look at this. Get rid of that. So we have our pig head here, but it's independent of, your object, right? So we can put in our like rubber toy if we wanted to. And then again, we have the same thing. So it doesn't matter like the size of your object really. It's going to just automatically kind of work. Or it doesn't matter. I guess it might matter the size. And it's one thing I didn't test, I guess. No, it should matter the size. Yeah, because this is 0.5 would be right in the middle. You got that offset. That's why I was being cut off. Yeah. So it doesn't matter the size of your object. So it all works based off of, the minimum position of the points and everything. So this would be good for like isolating things. So we could take this, maybe we wanted to, I don't know, take the middle part of Flippy here. This much. And we wanted to apply this noise just to that part. Take that, apply it in there. Now we have this noise just being applied where that mask is. So you could do that for like IDs too. That's actually something I wanted to explore, was IDs. Let's do that together. Let's see. For creating random IDs, let's do that should, why can't I see anything? I should be able to see something still, right? Oh, it needs points. Duh. Let's do a SOP import and a. I don't even know what they're called anymore. Rasterize setup. I always just do the SOP setup when I want to do this. Let's just do a grid. I'm going to be 2 by 2. And then I'll do a scatter. And let's just do this. I don't know, that many points. Sure. So, IDs. This intrigued me. What is, it's the, I guess it is a compare node. I looked at these and I don't remember, for a video I looked at these and I don't remember what I ran into with this. So let's take this. Let's see, greater than or equal to B. Then we can do a constant. Can we do a constant? Does this work? Can we just input a number into here? Cannot. Hello, how are you doing? Yeah, I'm doing good. We were just talking about HouMats. I don't know if you just joined in. We were taking a look at everything that's available inside of HouMats. But now we're moving on to looking at some ID stuff. So I was thinking about this. So you can do this, okay? If you're interested in taking a look at anything about HouMats and you want to know anything about it, just let me know and we'll jump over and take a look. But yeah, so I guess equal to B. So there's not really like a... There's not really a greater than, like, or a between. Like, there should be like a range. It's not a range. Huh. Should be a group, or like a range. Like we have the group range node. We should be able to do that with IDs too, I feel like. One thing that I think they need to fix, like right now, is the ability for CryptoMat. I don't know, there's a Rohan Dalby video about CryptoMat, but like there's, just looking at this node, the thing that's missing is like the thing that's so intrinsic to Houdini, and that's the little drop down that allows you like in a group node or something, like your drop down to select what you want to actually look at. Like how did they not include that in the CryptoMat? I feel like that was such a big oversight on their part. You have to actually just like know. I don't know, maybe that's probably because it's difficult to like actually set up, but just knowing, having to know exactly what your CryptoMats are called, your little layers are, is just wild. Yeah, I don't know what other like math nodes. Where does that compare come in? Mixing. No, is there a bounding rectangle? What is this? What is this node? I don't know that I've ever looked at this node. What is our help save for this? You can use the geometry in a crop cop. What? Okay. Let's do an SDF setup. I'm starting to slow down here. Like, I can feel I'm getting a little tired. So hopefully I don't start getting too stupid here. Let's do our, nope, that's not, we want the radius. Interesting. So it gets the bounding rectangle of an SDF layer, basically. Or I guess any monochrome layer, I mean. Above or below a threshold value. What? Oh, I'm dumb. Whoops. That's not what I wanted to do. I want to do a multiply. Let's delete that. Above a certain value. Interesting. I'm not exactly sure what I would use that for, but good to know. Now, what did it say about the crop? Use the geometry in a crop to then extract only the bound interval. I don't know why my brain's not thinking of like what that actually means. Huh. I don't know. All right, let's go back to where was that? Compare. Oh, it's probably under utility. Oh, also, there's like some cool. What are they? There's like these weird, like generator things. Patterns. These. Dude, these are so interesting. I sat and just played around with these for a while because they're so just like weird and cool. I don't know. You can get some really interesting shapes with these. Like, I don't know. They're just weird shapes. If you didn't know these exist, play around with this. Chlodny? Cymatic patterns? Chlodny? I don't know how it's pronounced. It's probably like some Greek word or something. I don't know. And then there's also the Julia fractal, which is super interesting as well. You can get some super cool stuff with this. I'm not sure what I'd use this for necessarily in a material, but it is interesting. This integer, I don't know, maybe you want to get some really weird masks or ID masks or something. I don't know. It's odd, but it's cool. Like they generate some really interesting shapes. But yeah, where was that? Probably the compare. Where am I blind? Where's the compare node under? Let's see. Mixing. It's not under that. Oh, I tried to set up. Oof. That's another thing that's missing from cops. I feel like currently is a good AO and curvature, just straight inside of cops. You can do it. And I tried to set it up using this convolve 3x3 and some other stuff, and it just did not work out very well. I didn't like it. I mean, it worked, but I didn't like it. I don't even think I saved it. But I think that's one of the things that's missing. Where am I? Oh, there it is. It's in the analysis. Jesus. Yeah, there should be like a group range or something. Is there a fit? It's not really a fit. I guess it's a ramp, isn't it? But you can't plug an ID map into a ramp, can you? No. Plug a stamp. I guess this is a ramp mono, so that wouldn't work. Do an ID to mono, I guess. I just don't. This is like not a good way. What do these do? I want to read more about this, how this works. ID to mono. Enters a represented by a flow too big to be registered. What? The integer, cast the integer into a float. Integers that are too big to be represented by a float are not represented correctly. What does that mean? What becomes too big? When does it become too big? Reversibly pack an integer into a float. For many input integers, this produces the equivalent float value. Pack into safe float vex function. The resulting flow value doesn't reflect it. Okay. Sounds like this is used to find the W component of a primitive W vector referring to a polygon soup primitive. What? Let me just pop over to a composite view with an inspect. 5. Oh yeah, but you need, okay. My brain's not braining right now. So you can do this, but you need to know the maximum value. If you wanted to like remap these, like what? What am I thinking here? Where's what node am I thinking of that has the input min and max? Oh, it is a remap node. Okay, Jesus. Sometimes my brain. Not a ramp, but okay, that makes more sense. Can I plug an ID directly into this? No, I can't. So yeah, in order to have this, to be able to like isolate, I don't know what the max value for this is. Maybe like 15 or something. How many copies did I make? Or points? 26. Okay, so 26 would logically be our max. So our input max. So now we have kind of, you know, the same as what we have here. Not really. Yeah, because that would, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. My brain. Again, brain not braining. So in order to get rid of that, if we wanted to like isolate like these values, let's do a constant. And let's set this back. It's like that. All right. Why am I getting... That was weird. Like... Oh, I started to drag it up. Okay. So we still have... Let's do a mono to ID. I guess, okay. It gets rid of them. But again, you still have to... In order for this to like work properly, you would need to know, in order to like have a similar thing to like a fit range. Sorry, I'm not talking, I'm thinking, but not expressing what I'm thinking. So in order to do like a fit range, right? You're not a group range. Like if you wanted to group a range of IDs, this would kind of have to be your workflow, but you'd have to know the number of like the max ID number, right? In order to set this properly, because you need a remap. I'm assuming, I guess that doesn't really matter. In order to set this input max correctly, threshold. Yeah, because that doesn't work that way. And then like this is just not ideal as far as, but I don't know, maybe you don't need that level of control, I guess. I don't know. I feel like you would need I feel like you would want like a group range. Like if you do a group range, right, you have the start and an end here. Like I feel like we should have that in this, but with that same level of control, as far as like specifying your exact numbers, because like in order to get, I don't know, IDs 12 through 15, like you'd have to split this up. It'd be, I don't even know what my brain's trying to get right now in order to get that. Position 1. Yeah, like I don't even know. Like it should be, yeah, I'm kind of tired, so I'm sure that if I thought about it on a fresh mind, I'd be able to figure out 12, like get 12 through 15, but like you shouldn't have to, right? You should be able to just type in 12. I want 12 to be my min, and then 15 be my max, and I would get those IDs, not have to use a ramp in order to get those. It's just, I don't know. That's my thoughts on that. You should also, there's nothing as far as I know inside of cops that allows you to like select just like a group from a geometry. Like if I had groups assigned to geometry, I should be able to grab those groups in cops and output like an alpha for those groups, like something to isolate them. So like if we did this, hopefully this makes sense. I don't know, I guess I'm kind of going off on a tangent here. I should be able to take this to UVs and get like, let's say I had like the face right here. This is the face of the pig. This is a group. I should be able to select that somehow inside of cops and just have that UV be isolated. I think that's something that's missing from cops as well. Although this is kind of more like it's going to be more of a substance painter type of a texturing workflow is what you need that for. I guess, I mean, that's kind of the same with the position mask too, wherever that went. Like this, right? But still, I don't know, I think they should have that. So maybe they'll put that in the next release. Maybe I'll see if I can come up with a thing to make it. I don't know. But yeah, that's going to be a quick look at HouMats. We kind of went off on a tangent there at the end and looked at some other things, just because I wasn't ready to hop off yet. But I can really feel myself slowed down now. My brain's not functioning at its full potential there. But yeah, if you wanted to grab HouMats, their links are in the description. They're going to be available on Patreon and Gumroad. You can take your pick, whichever one you would like to grab them on. They're available on there. If you are currently a Illusion level patron, you can get them for half off. And actually, all my Patreon is half off right now. So if you want to, or not half off, but 25% off. If you want to become a Patreon or patron, then you can do so. So yeah, so right now they're 25% off. You can also do a yearly membership if you would like to do that. But you can grab that and get the project files. I've got a bunch of tools. This Vision tier has a bunch of my tools and stuff available to it, and then all of the project files. Illusion, you'll get the 25% off, as well as all of the project files and everything, and some like written stuff as far as like the Vex and Vox series that I've done. So definitely take a look at that if you're interested, because actually, yeah, right now, for the same price as the Illusion tier, you can grab the Illusion tier and get all of the project files, as well as once you subscribe to this or whatever, you can, or join this membership level, you can head on over to the shop and grab HouMats for 50% off as well. So you can get HouMats and the Illusion tier for the same price as the Illusion tier. And then once you have the HouMats, so all of the releases that come after this for the utilities section are going to be free to use. So any more utility nodes that I add to HouMats, you're going to get all of those for free. So now is going to be the time to grab those, because as I add more and more, might change the price on those. If I end up with a bunch more nodes, then it'll probably go up a little bit in price. And if you're feeling real nice, you can gift someone a subscription as well. or a membership as well. So yeah, lots of different things that are available to you in here. You get all my project files. You get also this this generator from Mathis. Let's just look at that real quick because that's super cool. That's in the Illusion tier as well. We have the sci-fi building generator. So I'll give this a second to cook. It does take a minute just to cook the stuff. There's a lot that goes into this node. Give it a minute. It's taking a little bit longer because I'm streaming here. Uh-oh. There we go. Oh, we're good. So yeah, you have this sci-fi building generator, which is super cool. You can generate all sorts of really awesome buildings with this. So I'll just generate another one real quick, and you can use these in any of your scenes. And then you can also use this to practice, your texturing or whatever you want, if you want to do that as well. Lots of really cool shapes that come out of this. This is a really interesting one. I like this quite a bit. Yeah, so that's available as well on the Illusion tier. So lots of value in this, in my opinion. You get quite a bit now on that Illusion tier. That comes with that 50% off. That 50% off of HouMats is big right now with this 25% discount already as well. So if you're interested in any of that, head on over. There is the link to my Patreon. You can hop in there and grab all that stuff. Or if you want to head on over to Gumroad, let me grab that link real quick. Maybe. What did I guess I don't have it saved. In here, let's just pull that up. If I can find it. Profile. I'm pretty new to Gumroad, I guess. As far as having an account on there. Or my own page. But yeah, there we go. Let's do this. So insidethemind.space.gumroad.com, and you can grab HouMats on there if you prefer to use that instead of using Patreon. It's kind of up to you. Some different options there, and if you have already grabbed it, you want to head on over there and give me a little rating. It'd be nice. But anyways, yeah, like I said, I'm going to hop off now. Go ahead and grab yourself HouMats if you're interested. Like I said, there's going to be more releases for this. As far as the utilities nodes, I'm going to add more to the utilities nodes. I'm going to add more to just HouMats in general. I plan on them being more of a place to grab just materials in general. It's HouMats, the materials part of that HouMats. Plan on having some materials. I'm going to have to build those out. I wanted to focus on the utility nodes first so that we can get some basis for some of the other stuff that'll help us build out some other materials. And like I said, I do plan on adding in making some videos where I make some materials using this stuff. So if you want to follow along with that, you'll want to grab HouMats as well. So yeah, I guess that is all I kind of wanted to cover. I think I went through them all. I don't know. Yeah, I went through the UV grid. Yep. So I went through them all. Lots of different notes here and more coming soon. So you'll be want to make sure you grab those before anything goes up in price or anything like that. If I decide to do that, if you grab them now, you're going to get those all in the future. as part of your initial purchase. So now is the best time. But anyways, thank you guys for watching and hanging out with me. If you, like I said, want to grab them, then head on over to either Patreon or Gumroad, take a pick, and you can grab them on there. But anyways, I'm gonna head out for the night. Thank you guys for watching. I'm getting a little tired, but stay tuned for more stuff on this, because definitely more coming. I've been having a lot of fun with cops in 20.5. So if you make anything with HouMats, any of this stuff, then make sure to let me know. Show it to me on Discord or whatever. Tag me on social media and show me what you've done, because I think that'd be super cool. See what people are making with it. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. You go ahead and have yourself a good night, and we will see you sometime next week for some more stuff. See you later, guys.